Hi, welcome back to the shop. As most of you might know, I was doing a series on the Stanley iron planes, and I touched on the number 49 tongue and groove, and that's the one that has the swinging fence that does the tongue and the groove, and it's a match plane. They used to call in the on the wooden planes, they called them match planes. But Stanley called it the tongue and groove plane for some reason. I'll have to check the catalogs to see if they also used match. But in the John Walters book, he refers to it as the tongue and groove plane with a swinging fence. And that's pretty much this part here. You pull this pin and this will spin around. And so what it does is you have two cutters on this side and this side, and when you swing it one way, it exposes both cutters and you use that fence, and it leaves that piece of wood in the middle that you would call a tongue, a typical tongue and groove. But you would swing it the other way, and it would cover one of these cutters, and thereby this is the only blade that would be showing, and it would give you the groove, the matching groove for the tongue that you made. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This plane is a number 49, and I had this plane, and I've had it for years, and I've used it, and it's designed for thinner wood because the distance is set here on this cutter distance from the fence, so it would only do a certain size wood. Now, it's interesting because this number 49 that we have here that I'm showing you, this 49 was offered in 1877. The other one, the 48, was offered in 1876, but I didn't have the 48. I only had the 49. And the funny thing is that the 49 is the rarer plane. I don't know why that is. But because a friend of mine watched the video and realized that I didn't have the 48, he sent it to me as a gift, and it's a really exceptional gift. And it's about the same period as the one that I had, but it is the larger size, as you can see, just in the size of the fences here, but also the distance from the fence over is what makes this a different plane, in that it will go up to a larger width of wood that you're putting your tongue and groove into. So I'm going to get into some of the details on these, and we'll continue on. So this is the 49 here, and this is the 48. So the 48 was manufactured first, and it's the larger version. And it was available in 1876. This one came later. This is the one that they claim does the larger, and this is for the smaller. So it might have been that they found that people wanted to use this plane and liked it, but they couldn't use it on smaller, thinner wood. And so maybe for doing boxes or something smaller like that. So they came out with this one just a couple of years later and made it smaller. So let's take a look at some of the differences between these two. I said they were about the same period. The 49 that I have is just a little bit older than this 48, and I'll show you why. So here are the features of this number 49, and this is the one that I'm saying is older. The reason is these screws, or that's not the reason why it's older, it's just older because it is, but the reason I know it is because of these screws here. You see the shapes of those, and those were the earliest ones. The earliest plane would have been japanned, and it would have had that little scroll work here. So this is not the earliest plane, but when they switched over to making this body, they probably used up the rest of these original screws that they had, because that's the ones that they used on the earliest ones. Now, the other thing about this plane is that when we turn it over, and this has nothing to do with the age, I just want to show you how this works. Is you see here's the fence, and it's pinned in with this little pin here that is sprung. there's a little spring in there that makes that go back. Now, you would expect that all you have to do is push this in and it would close up. And you can see that they left this little lowered portion here so that you could just sort of force it in. And they rounded the bottom of this pin ever so slightly so that it would ride in that. But it goes down really too far, and I wouldn't want to push it in, forcing it to ride up on that slope. So whenever I set it in, I always pull that back, put the pin in, and then push it down in to lock it in. Once it's locked in, it is very good and does not show a lot of jiggle laterally, and that's nice. You don't want that shaking because that's what's keeping your fence from moving against you as you cut. Now, I've got this right now that what it's doing is it's leaving one cutter, two cutters open, and you can see them. So the portion in the middle here is what's going to give you the tongue. And these two cutters are going to cut the cheeks on each side of the tongue. Now, if I take this and I pull this out, and I spin it around, again, I like to pull it back and not force that over that ledge, although I think it was designed to do that. Now, when we turn it over, because this is wider here on this side, the pin is off-centered, so this part here is covering this side here, at the same time covering one of the cutters. So now there's only one cutter showing, and that would give you the groove, because it would only cut down that center piece. It also has this little part here, which I'll call a fence, but basically what it does is the plane will bottom out when it gets to this little ledge here. And that's important because that controls how deep a hole you're going to get in that groove. So the plane will only go down a certain distance. So that is the older of the two planes right there. Now I'll show you what makes me think the other one is newer. So here is the number 48, and you can see the number 48 down here, whereas the other one had the number 49 there. Had the same Stanley here, had the same type of handle here, but these two screws you see have been changed. This one has the Sweetheart logo on it, and this one doesn't. Functioning all the same. Now, this one that just arrived from my friend as a gift has this cutter here sharpened on both ends, which is rather dangerous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off and flatten that just so I don't cut myself on it at some point. There's no reason for it to be double-ended like that. But here you have it. You see I was using it. Now, this is that ledge that I was talking about was on the other one, and it's a little bit deeper than the other one. So this one will go down and give you a groove that's a lot deeper. And here it is with the groove cutter is the only one showing. So this will be the groove. And then when you spin this around, that'll give you the tongue. And the other thing about this that's interesting is that you see how shiny this is down to the steel. But you see this was plated originally, and you can see that on the bottom here, and you see that that plating there is also on the top of this one. Now on the other one, you can see that the plating originally was all over. So this entire fence was plated, and either they dressed it in the newer ones, or it's just been worn clean, or somebody sanded it down and took off the plating. But you can see there's a little bit of plating left on there. So these fences on the earlier ones were plated on the sides. Perhaps they changed their mind and decided, you know what, we need to stop that because it's getting messy. So maybe they changed it over time. We'll have to see. If anybody writes in and tells me a little more information about it, we'll know about it. But these are the two match planes, tongue and groove, with a swinging fence that they made. Now let's get to the work they need to do. So this is the number 48. Now, in the book, it says that this is used to make a 5/16 tongue and groove match joints on boards 3/4 to 1.25 inch, centering on 7/8. I found that not to be true, and I'll explain. For cutting a groove, only one cutter is exposed. It goes on to tell you about that. But the 49 is the same as the 48, except this plane makes a 3/16 groove, and it's adapted for smaller thicknesses of lumber, a 1/2 inch to 3/4. So I have here a board that is 7/8 inch wide. I'm making the groove cut, and you can see that it is not centered. This is 7/8 of an inch. So that isn't quite true in the book. But I found that when you're making these cuts, particularly on these short boards, I didn't really do any long boards, but it seems to be important that you not just go across it slowly like this. It really takes a little bit of force, and if you go slowly, it tends to waver a bit. So once you start your cut, I find it works best to go right through. If you waver, you get a little chatter on the side there. So it needs to be just straight through. Now, this will only go until this little ledge here hits the edge of the wood here, and it won't go any deeper. And there it is, bottoming out. So I'll stop there and let me show you. Here's the groove that we made. Nice and clean. Now, this side is furry, and that's the side that I put out. So in doing the other part, I'm going to keep the same side towards the fence that I had. And now I'm going to turn this around the other way. And now clear this and put the fence against it. Now you can see there's 2 cuts on each side. You can see the tongue developing. It's not terribly deep yet, but again, it will stop when it gets up to the same ledge, so it will be the correct depth for what we want. So let's stop there for the moment. That's the same side there. And so the 2 pieces will fit together snug, and there we go. It's a good joint. Up here, the wood might not have been straight. I didn't plane this one first. Now, the smaller one, you can see here, the smaller one fits together nicely here. Nice and smooth. And I've done both sides, but this is the one that we just did. And you can see here is the tongue, here is the groove, and it's not centered. This is 7/8, and so John Walter's book isn't quite accurate in that. But here, when we push them together, there's the tongue and groove, and here's the joint that it makes. Flush across there. Really very nice. You know, I get a lot of fun not only doing these videos and sharing this information with people, but I learn every time. Somebody made some comments in the last video that were extremely helpful, and I'd suggest you go back if you look at that series number 5 of the series, read the comments, because I think there's some really interesting information that was added in the comments section. It was really worthwhile. And but these match planes are really a great little plane. I wouldn't say they're really for commercial use, but great for a hobbyist, and actually really great for like box makers or something like that, where you have a lot of small wood that you want to join together. And they work extremely well. I'm really glad to have the 48 for the larger wood, but in reality, it really doesn't expand too much on what the other plane could do. The other plane, this is some smaller wood, but it actually does a good tongue and groove joint. The 7/8, yes, it does, and it might go even a little bigger than that, but not too much bigger. But made a great joint, nice and flush, and that's all you really need. So if you see these, and they have both the irons, make sure they have both the irons and everything. And I'd pick them up and try them out, because they're fun to use, and it's automatic. This is like that Ron Popeil where he says, set it and forget it. Pick it up, set it, and then leave it set. And then whenever you want to do a tongue and groove, you're ready for it. And it really doesn't matter that the tongue and groove are actually centered on the board exactly. It does not matter if it's lower or anything, because all it does is aligns the two to give you one flush side that's important. So grab them if you see them, and play with them and enjoy them. And until the next time I see you in the shop, take care of yourselves, take care of your family and your loved ones, and be kind to everybody you meet. Take care. Thanks for coming.